First of all, remember we talked about in the beginning, irritation drives adaptation. So we do something, our body is very smart. It recognizes that's an area where I have a problem. Is there a way for me to repair that problem? That doesn't happen if we just lay in bed all day.
Right.
Now, of course, I'm exaggerating that it doesn't happen, right? Because if you're in a coma on bed rest, you're repairing.
Yeah.
But I'm talking about the stuff that we're dealing with day to day in our athletic lives, right? Trying to be an athletic, active individual. This is Dr. Sean Pastuch with Active Life on Ever Forward Radio. And today I'm talking to Chase about the things that you're telling yourself, the actions that you're taking, the actions that you're not taking, and how to maximize the opportunity in every moment so that you can live a fulfilling life the way that you scripted it.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to Ever Forward Radio. I'm back here in New York City and sitting down with my man to talk about a really great topic that I am very familiar with, and I'd be willing to bet you are as well, and that's pain, our definition of it, our concept of it, and how to be a student of it. Did I get that right, Sean?
Yeah, that'll work.
That'll work. All right, man.
Yeah.
Welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here.
I appreciate you bringing me out, man.
We've had some really interesting conversations so far around this concept, of pain, but also the understanding on really the coach, the trainer, and client side, and best practices for really translating that and being a human on both sides of that, and really kind of guiding people through what we should be pushing and where we should be kind of pausing. I think there are a lot of lessons here in this conversation we're going to have for both the individual around pain and the physical self and progress, but also as a professional.
I hope I can be useful to facilitate that conversation for you.
Well, let's kick it off, and I would love to what is your definition of pain? What does that mean to you?
So that's a loaded question. I like that you come out hot like that.
I'm going for the clips.
I like it. So in order to understand pain, we need to understand everything around pain. And so I want to provide some context here, because when people come and they say, I have pain, this hurts, this is bothering me, that doesn't tell us anything, right? Because you've told a massage therapist, that hurts. And they said, do you want me to stop? You're like, no, keep going. That's the good pain. So we need to be able to differentiate, especially when we're talking about working with a fitness client or someone who's exercising. Like, do I work through this or not? So there are 4 terms that I think are important we understand. The first term is insult. Insult is the subconscious intake of stimulus. So what that means is we don't feel it. Whatever the atoms that are bombarding our body right now, as you sit there and I sit here and people sit as they listen, stuff's going on that we don't feel. That's insult. The moment that insult becomes conscious, the moment that we feel it, that's irritation. So irritation would be my shirt collar. I want to move it a little bit, or I want to shimmy in the chair a little bit, or anything all the way up to that. I definitely felt that significant feeling there, right? That's irritation. Irritation is necessary to drive adaptation. It can be positive or it can be negative. Pain is the negative emotional response to irritation. So I felt something and I did not like it. The amount of pain that we experience can increase or decrease based on our certainty around where it's coming from. So if you think about, for example, getting a pain behind your eyeball right now, as you're listening to this, you get a pain right behind your eyeball. You start seeing colors. All of a sudden your vision is blurry and you're like, whoa, I've never had this before. This is serious. I got to go to the hospital right away. Right? That's like a 9 or a 10 out of 10 for people.
Especially because it's new, right?
That's what I mean. Because they have no certainty around it. For the person who suffers from migraines, that's a Tuesday lunchtime. They're like,
I'm as soon as you started describing that, I'm like, oh yeah, this is
100%, right?
Unfortunately, pretty normal for me.
But so the person who knows what that is doesn't experience the same escalation of the discomfort as the person who has no idea what it is. Because there's panic involved. There's the emotion of, I don't know what this is. I don't like it. So that's what pain is. It's the negative emotional response associated with irritation made worse by uncertainty. And then finally, we have the final definition would be injury, which is the decision to stop doing something. And that one is important because people will say, I have a knee injury. I'm like, well, I don't think you do have a knee injury. I'm like, well, I do have a knee injury. Like I have a torn meniscus. I'm like, well, that might be a meniscus injury, but it's not a knee injury. And how does the meniscus affect you? Because you walked in here, you're sitting down, you can stand up. Where does it limit you? oh, well, I can't squat in the gym anymore. Okay, well, then you have a squatting injury. It's not even a meniscus injury anymore. It's a squatting injury. And now we can do something about it. It's not your story anymore. So I hope that was okay to give you the full definition.
No, I love that. And it's a great reminder, we're kind of sharing that definition, that description with me before. And this time it actually hit me in a way that I really like, because I kind of pulled out some different kind of pain applications. We're in physical pain, I think was what we're really talking about here, but also there's pain of the mind, there's pain of anxiety, pain of stress, pain of uncertainty. And it reminded me of this quote, this Stoic quote that I love, and it's, we suffer far more in our imaginations than in reality. And that's really what we're talking about here, is there's the level of uncertainty that comes with a physical, emotional, mental, spiritual pain that is just really exacerbated by, this is new. I don't know how to process this. I have no relation, and perhaps even I don't even know who to go to translate this pain, to get help, to get relief,
Yeah. And part, what you were describing there is anxiety in a way.
Yeah.
And anxiety is punishing ourselves for failure that hasn't happened yet. So it's, all this pent up energy around, oh, am I going to do bad at this? Is this going to be a problem? Am I going to be successful? You have no reason to be punishing yourself right now for something that you have.
It's like we know this, but we just can't not think it.
It's in human nature, right? Because we're trying to avoid imminent death innately. It's still the thing that's embedded within us. If it's okay with you, I like to help people with how they can remove the anxiety and the uncertainty from what they're feeling and make conscious decisions. So a lot of my background was it started off with working with elite athletes, and now it's working. I'm not as inspired to do that anymore. My ego has checked that box, and I'm now on to much more everyday people like myself, or perhaps you.
Definitely not an athlete.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, you're in the military. Pretty strong,
I guess.
dude.
And so how we struggle with that, I think anyone who consistently puts forth effort to maintain even, but, to optimize, to strengthen, to improve the human experience, I feel like we're all human athletes,
Sure. Yeah. Well, the reason why I thought that background, and it's brief, is valuable, is because a lot of what I had to do early on in my career was try to figure out ways to help people who thought that they were really mentally tough to actually make more conscious decisions. Right. And I was teaching them the mentally tough person, the mentally tough athlete does not do physically tough things that are mentally easy. And so what that means is, right? So I'm going to do this workout. It hurts. I'm going to do the workout anyway because that's what I do. No, that's the easy decision, because your identity is threatened by you saying, I'm going to skip the workout today because that's the smarter thing to do. So we created rules that make it very simple for people to make as objective a decision in a subjective scenario as possible.
Are you kind of describing there? Sorry to interrupt, but are you kind of saying is that when maybe mindset is not serving us? We think we have a strong mindset. We think we have strong mental fortitude, mental resiliency, but it's actually deviating from what we should be doing.
It's maybe, I think the way I would describe that is that the mindset that we have is that this is what we do. Instead of this is how we think about what we do. And if we can think about what we do more than just do, then we have the opportunity to be more successful over a longer period of time.
I love that. I love that.
So if we think about the elite athlete on the basketball court, in the football field, whatever the case might be, we want that person to not need to think. That needs to be automatic, right? Because that's peak performance. They can't stay at that level all day long. That is a short burst. Even if we're talking about, a 3-hour game when you include the commercials, the amount of time that they're doing something that is actually high intensity is very little. And that's what's automated. But so we have to be conscious the rest of the time. We have to be thinking the rest of the time. So people will look at, should I do this or should I not do this? Is this making me worse? Is this making me better? Should I work through this pain? Am I being a bitch? Right? That's the language that goes inside their own head. And there are 4 things that you can follow that give you very simple answers to those questions. Number 1, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being passing a kidney stone, having childbirth, or your first migraine, whatever it might be, that's a 10. A 1 would be, I feel nothing. That's like, someone's gently scratching my back. Is it a less than 5 out of 10? Or is it greater than a 5 out of 10? Less than 5 out of 10, we're probably okay. We can keep going. Is it getting better from rep to rep? Or is it getting worse from rep to rep? One of the mistakes people make is they rest so often when work is what needs to be done. But so you start a set, your Achilles feels a little bit icky, you keep going, it starts to feel better. And by the time you're in the middle of a run, the Achilles pain is completely gone. Should you rest that Achilles? No. You got better as you used it, as blood flow got to the area.
Look at the evidence. Yeah.
Right. So if it's getting better as you go, continue doing it. When you stop doing whatever it is you're doing, let's say it stays a 1 to 5 on the scale. And when you pick something up, that's what really gets it to the 5. But when you put that thing down, it goes away. Well, great. As long as that didn't exceed the 5, then we're good. We can keep going. And then finally, 24 to 48 hours later, do you have a focal spot of discomfort? Can you go like it hurts right here? If the answer to that is no, then we didn't do damage and you're doing exactly what you should be doing to get yourself better.
Now, can you actually walk us through maybe why that is the case? I know this would be really person to person specific, injury specific, but in a scenario like that to where we maybe used to stop ourselves because of an injury or something sore or tight, but then as we progress through it, it gets better. And then even to your point, after maybe the pain is gone or it's definitely not made worse, like what is going on there? Can you explain, what process is happening in the body?
I want to make sure.
Like, why are we getting better, through pain sometimes instead of making it worse?
So there's a lot of reasons why we would improve with use when something is uncomfortable. First of all, remember we talked about in the beginning, irritation drives adaptation. So we do something, our body is very smart. It recognizes that's an area where I have a problem. Is there a way for me to repair that problem? That doesn't happen if we just lay in bed all day.
Right.
Now, of course, I'm exaggerating that it doesn't happen, right? Because if you're in a coma on bed rest, you're repairing. But I'm talking about the stuff that we're dealing with day to day in our athletic lives, right? Trying to be an athletic, active individual. So number one is neurological proprioception to the problem. Number two is going to be we actually force tissue repair. So oftentimes some of the damage that we can be feeling discomfort from is muscle fibers realigning in a maladaptive way.
This is where like sometimes people like an inflammatory response is a good thing. This is how the body heals.
We need inflammation.
Chronically, no, but acutely in scenarios like this, absolutely.
So we'll come back to inflammation in a moment because that's a great topic. But if the tissues, if you tear a muscle, and we do that every time we exercise, right? And it grows back in the wrong fashion, meaning the fibers are no longer aligned the way that they're meant to be aligned. They're now haphazardly aligned like a spider web instead of like cables on a bridge. That can be painful to use. And when we load that, it re-tears and it goes back into the appropriate alignment. So using the tissue can help with that. Of course, blood flow is another reason why doing this kind of stuff is beneficial. Blood brings healing properties. It brings all the nutrients necessary to start to heal the damaged tissue. And that's where inflammation comes in. That's why I wanted to save it for the end here, right? Inflammation is the body's natural healing response. We spend too much time trying to blunt it because we want to avoid being uncomfortable at all.
Right, yeah.
There is too much inflammation, right? There's acute onset of inflammation when if your skin feels hot, if you're seeing swelling that is making joints disappear, you need to take that into a doctor. If you're feeling a little achy and stiff after you did something that maybe was a little more than you thought you should, you need to let that inflammation stick around and do its job.
Where do you stand in scenarios, maybe specifically in recovery of a major injury or surgery? And the one that always comes top of mind for me, I've shared with you, my background, my history with my physical injuries and my reconstructive hip surgeries. Back then, the school of thought was do nothing, immobilize. I was on bed rest for days before ever even being allowed to get up to like be assisted to go to the bathroom. And now I know people who go through the same procedure and it's like, no, same day they want you up and moving around. So is it just a matter of kind of like with a lot of things in fitness and nutrition and the body in general, like it just takes humans kind of a longer period of time to get a better assessment of best ways to work through something? Or, are we going to come back to, no, I need to be immobilized? Like, why is there such a difference in train of thought here, especially when, injury and surgery recovery?
Yeah. So I think it's important that I make clear I'm not a post-surgical specialist, right? So I would not be smart to speak on what you should have done after your surgery. What I can speak to is why.
Maybe, I don't know. I wish I kind of had more people like you around me than just the typical
I certainly
therapists.
I certainly would have asked you things to ask your doctors that would have given them more things to think about. But I think that the bigger question you're asking there is, how come they told me bed rest and they're telling people this now, and is it going to go back to bed rest, or like how do we? I think Ben Patrick, the knees over toes guy, says this really well. He talks about sometimes the science comes after the innovation. Like, in fact, always the science comes after the innovation because we're studying, did something work, right? So we're trying something. It's difficult with humans because it's, hey, do you want to be the first guy, Chase, who's going to try walking around after your surgery? We think it might work.
Take your horrible physical situation right now and potentially cause you more pain and more injury, but for the sake of science.
And to be frank, when I was getting this company started, I did that all the time with people. And I told them I was doing it all the time because people were coming to me from around the world, locally, online, all the things. They would fly out or they would sign up online to work with my company. And they would ask, do you think you can help me? Like, I don't know. We've never had somebody like you before. And this is the worst case scenario of us working together. Are you prepared to face the worst case scenario if what we're doing isn't going to work?
Yeah.
And I would tell people that all the time. We still do.
Worst case scenario. That's something that immediately brings back a lot of memories for me. And anyone who has gone through a significant injury or a setback, physical or otherwise, if you had a major injury that prevented you from keeping up with your way of training or way of life for days, weeks, months on end, like me, or a major loss or trauma that just kind of like mentally, emotionally gets you checked out. It's kind of like we have to get to that point, right? We have to get to the point of there's no other option.
Well, people can help us get there. So I agree with you. We have to get there. The biggest responsibility I have right now in my work is to lead a team and create a safe and inspiring work environment, right? So that they can help people pursue a mission together. The reason why it's important to say that is because all of the actions that our clients are taking, that our staff are asking them to take, are actions that are being taken faster than they would have taken them on their own. And so it's my responsibility to create safety amongst our team and inspiration amongst our team so that they can pass that on to their clients. You are safe. And I'm trying to inspire you to do something that's scary for you. Whether that's a coach changing their career, a gym owner trying to employ people professionally, or the client at the end of the day who's dealing with wanting to live a more fulfilling, active life. We can get to that rock bottom without getting to that rock bottom that you're talking about, right? So you've talked about things in your life that have been traumatizing for you on the podcast. I've listened to many of them. I've had mine. The worst thing that happened to you is the worst thing that's happened to you, and the worst thing that's happened to me is the worst thing that's happened to me. And we had our own experiences around them. But we chose to take action in different ways after them because of our other experiences and our other knowledge.
Absolutely, yeah.
So I think that professionals who are supporting clients, like a personal trainer who's listening to this supporting a client, you don't need to wait until your client has had their worst case scenario happen to be able to inspire them to do something that would be beneficial for them. And I think that's the job of the professional in the space.
Let's go there a little bit. I want to kind of put the listener in the position of, well, maybe they are, the position of how do I best kind of articulate or question my experience with a professional I'm working with, a trainer, a coach, a body worker. We'll kind of keep it in that realm, not go the medical clinical route. Because I feel like a lot of people more nowadays they're more educated, more empowered, more curious about the human body. And there are so many other ways to learn. Or maybe like I shouldn't be on bed rest. Maybe I should be trying this. But I still think we kind of have a limit on what we share maybe with people because we still feel like, well, what do I know? I'm not the expert. I'm the one here getting rehab or working through an injury or trying to get, away from worst case scenario. How can we better articulate questions or bring things up so that we kind of like probe the professional in a way to help get us there faster?
Great question. So I talked about this a little bit with Dr. Gabrielle Lyon. I can expand it now to talk about how we do it with the coach. But so let's say the doctor first. You're going to see a doctor. a lot of people think of a doctor as somebody who's just going to give them medication, ask them for surgery, or tell them to rest. And that gives the medical profession a bad name. When that's not what the medical profession most of the time is aiming to do.
Right.
What happens is too often patients come in and they don't know how to ask for what they want. The doctor is trying to give them what they think that they want, which is relief from whatever the thing is. And they send them on their way. So they do give them the medicine. It does work fast. It doesn't solve the problem,
Right.
but it solves the symptom.
Get relief. Yeah.
Yes. And so it's a chicken and an egg situation where the patient needs to communicate more clearly. And the doctor certainly could stand to ask better questions. But we can't ask the doctor to ask better questions. We can only ask ourselves to ask better questions. So the way that you would do that when you go into a doctor's office is ask, here is the outcome that I want. Do you believe that you can provide it to me? Here's how you do that. Let's pretend that you're someone who's working out in the gym and your back hurts every time you deadlift and you can't even look at the bar anymore. Reaching down to touch your toes is painful. If you go to the doctor and you say, my back hurts and it hurts especially when I deadlift. And the doctor says, okay.
Well, that's if you're lucky enough to know or to have a doctor who knows what a deadlift is.
Sure. When I lift heavy weights, my back hurts. Doc. Okay. If you don't say anything else, they're going to do the thing that's going to get rid of your pain. Let's reduce the amount of weight that you're lifting. Give it some time. And when it feels better, you can go back to it. Here's a muscle relaxer painkiller until then. That's not what you wanted. You need to be able to ask the doctor, I want to be able to continue to lift heavy weights without pain. Is that something that you can help me do now or build a progression to being able to do? Now you put the doctor in a position where they have to answer a much more specific question and they can be much more forthcoming and honest with you. Doctors want to do that. I promise you they want to do that. And if you give them the opportunity, they will. When you're talking to a coach, let's say you're hiring a personal trainer and you have something going on and you're like, I don't know if this person can help me or not. One of the reasons I think most people are overwhelmed by the fitness industry these days is because everyone is saying, I can help you, I can help you, I can help you. It'll be fast, it'll be easy. It can be fast, it'll be easy, and of course I can help you. An experiment I like to ask people to do is call every gym in your town. Tell them you're 100 pounds overweight. Ask them if they think they can help you. And what you'll find is all of them will probably say yes.
Sure, yeah.
Without asking
The
many
smart
questions.
business response would be yes, absolutely.
Well, I think the foolish business response is yes.
To them, exactly. They're like, I'm not going to turn away this client.
Well, but so if you're the business owner, and you say yes to everybody, what's happening is you're building short-term revenue generation at a long-term trust liability. So when people come to our business, we refer almost half the people who come to us out to other businesses.
Wow.
Because we know that what we do is difficult.
Yeah.
And if you're coming to us, we need you to be fully committed. And so we're going to refer you to other people if the problem that you have can be solved by somebody else and you're not going to enjoy our process. That builds a lot of trust amongst our clients and the marketplace. So if you're calling a gym and you're asking, can you help me? And they're all saying yes. The next question would be, who is someone that you would say you would not be able to help? Who's the person who you don't want to come in? What's the client that you don't enjoy servicing? And that's actually a favor that you're doing them because you wouldn't think like if I called a cardio kickbox place, right? I would not like cardio kickbox, but if I was like, I'm looking to be active again, I've been inactive for a while and I'm looking for something that's just going to give me a fun workout that challenges me and builds some strength. Can you help me? They're like, yeah, man, come on down. It's great. You can have a great time. I would be the worst member. Like if I'm throwing punches and kicks, I want someone throwing punches and kicks back at me. And you're not doing that. I wouldn't, but that person might complain. That person might ask for a refund after time. That person might stop coming. That person might tell people that you don't get results because they didn't get results because they don't like your service. So to the end user, it's asking people, for whom are you not a fit in a way that they can answer it clearly?
For me, it comes down to one word, and that's adherence. And I think adherence in a pain management plan, adherence in a weight loss plan, a strength building plan, whatever plan is really, I think back to when and how I felt most successful in my practice was when I could look at the chart, look at the EMR and go, okay, this person's not only been coming in for 4 months, 6 months, a year, 2 years, but I actually see progress and I see adherence. I see both of us kind of sticking to the agreement that we made, manipulating things as needed along the way, but also kind of like dual input. And it didn't, honestly, the plan didn't matter as much as the adherence. So anytime we would deviate away from adherence, why are you not coming in? What BS am I picking up on? When am I just taking the easy way out and just kind of copying, pasting a program, or just giving you something that I think could help you or in general, but is not specific for you, that is going to then in turn keep you less adherent in the long run, less happy in the long run, and in the long run for me, give me more work, because I'm going to then have to come back and kind of undo this stuff when I should have just been focusing on adherence in the beginning.
Well, consistency is influential.
Right.
And so that is either in your media that you're posting, being consistent will influence people. It's also putting inputs into your body. If you consistently put an input into your body, over time, it's going to influence the way your body works. And so you're right. The best plan is the one that you will stick to. We have a little thing that we do at our flagship location in Long Beach, where all of our landmines are mounted into the wall. Landmine is an attachment that, for those of you who don't know, it's a barbell on a pivot, right? So ours are mounted into the wall and they have a pin loaded. The pin keeps it up in place. Our pins are always faced to the back of the wall. So when you're done, you just turn the pin to the wall. The reason why we do that is it's a reminder to be consistent. It's a reminder to do things with a high level of detail consistently. And the reason I bring that up is the plan you'll stick to is the best plan. But a good professional will help you stick to a more specific plan for your needs, right? You mentioned people coming in, it was basically a compliance thing, an adherence thing. If you could get them to come into the clinic or into the gym frequently, they're going to get results.
Sure. Yeah.
If you can get them to come into the gym frequently, doing a program that's based on assessments that you did on them, a needs analysis on them that is progressed through reassessment, they're going to get better results more quickly, right? And so one of the things that I see in the fitness industry a lot that I would like to see less of is when people come to join a coaching business and there's a menu of options, right?
What do you mean?
So you're going into a gym, a group fitness gym or a personal training gym. Our once a week membership costs this, or twice a week.
Okay.
If you want to add nutrition, it's this. If you want personal training sessions, it's
So
this.
it's literally just picking off a menu.
12 options, combine them all.
I'll have the
right?
number two, you
Yes.
know,
because the idea is
side.
yes, it's meant to meet people where they're at financially. But I believe that while that may have good intentions, it leads to people getting a plan that won't actually get them to their goal on a horizon line that will be inspiring to them. And so they quit. And then they quit and they say that they couldn't get results. You didn't get them results, all these kinds of things. I'm a big proponent of the prescriptive plans whenever possible.
You know, you bring up a good point around whatever you're going to see a professional for, personal trainer, pain management, like we've been talking about. And that's, you know, the financial aspect, which then can also cause a unique type of pain for somebody. How would you navigate that? Would you navigate that any differently for someone to rethink financial pain, maybe short-term or long-term, to navigate, you know, alleviating a much bigger pain?
So if I'm understanding the question properly, what you're asking is someone is feeling a financial strain right now, but they need to make a purchase or an investment so that they can alleviate something else.
Right.
But the financial pain is in the way.
Yeah.
I can only speak from my experience here because financial pain is something that is very unique to people, and there's a lot of emotion around that. And I want to be respectful of that for people. And I'm in a different place in my life than I was previously. I hired a mentor when I was dead broke. I could not afford the mentor. I didn't have the time. I didn't have the money. None of it. I was married. My wife had told me that she didn't want to be a single mother. We were about to have a kid, and at this point, actually, we had a kid because I was working 17 hours Monday through Friday each day, and then I was working 12 hours on Saturday, and I was never home. And when I was home, I wasn't present. And I wasn't clearing $30,000 a year. And I was convincing myself I'm building things for the future. And I was
I know how that goes, man.
Right?
Yeah.
So I was working really, really, really hard, and I wasn't being productive. I hired a mentor because I was like, I need someone to teach me how to make money. It cost me $1,000 a month. I met with him for 2 hours a month. That's it. Came to my office. We sat down. We talked for 2 hours once a month. In the first meeting, he told me that I need to treat people the way that they want to be treated and not treat people the way that I want to be treated. And when I asked him, how do I know how they want to be treated? He's like, that's exactly the questions that you need to learn how to ask. And at first I was like, this is nonsense. I'm paying you $1,000 to teach me how to make money. And you're telling me to treat people differently? Like, what's the trick, bro? 8 months later, I was evolved to be a business person who was making $100,000 a year for the first time. And I was only working 4.5 days a week. And none of those days were more than 10 hours.
That you trace back to origin point being
all of
this
it being
conversation.
These mentorship meetings.
Wow.
I met with him once a month. That's it, for 8 months. And then, I mean, we kept going after that for a little bit, but he never taught me anything about business. Nothing about business. He recognized in me, this is a kid who needs to evolve who he is so that he can relate to people, be more empathetic, and service people better. He could have taught me tactics to acquire clients, ways to change my pricing, better sales techniques.
Which are all probably things you had the expectation of getting.
That's exactly what I thought I was going to get. And I got none of it. I got be a better person. And that is what led me to having my first 6-figure a year.
Amazing.
And now, so our company, whether we're working with a gym owner, a coach, or an individual, we're a personal development company disguised as a fitness or business development company. Because that path set me from $30,000 a year to owning a business that does several millions of dollars a year. And I have had to learn and gotten to learn the sales, the marketing, the pricing.
Of course. Right. Yeah.
But I wasn't in a mental place to do it yet. And financially, I was in a lot of pain. That was kind of my financial rock bottom, if you will, that we were talking about earlier. So my experience was be calculated with it. Be protective of your money and deploy it in ways that it can bring more back. Right? So the way we were talking about before, if you're going to pay someone to help you make more money, interview them like you were hiring them to work in your company right next to you or to be your boss, right? Hire slow and then be ready to follow.
Yeah. Hire slow, fire fast, what they say, right?
They say that. I think
slow to hire, fast to fire.
I think what happens oftentimes there is people make the mistake of believing like, okay, I did my diligence. I waited long to hire this person. And now they're just showing that they can't do the job. I got to fire them. No. Now you need to look at what's your next responsibility as the boss. What you made the hire.
Great point. Yeah.
Now what's your job? Are they just supposed to be able to do everything? What was their on-ramp when they joined? Like, so they're a new employee at your business. What's their first week look like? How do you know what they can do? Right? For us, whether it's a person doing back squats, a person throwing a ball, a person going for a walk, a person coaching a client, or a person opening a gym, we assume that you are incompetent at anything that we have not seen you do on 3 consecutive occasions without any intervention from us. So you need to think the same way about staff that you are hiring. They are incompetent at the job you hired them for, even if they come in extremely well credentialed. Your job as the business owner is to have a development process in place that ensures that they move from incompetence to competence to proficiency to a different role.
Yes, wholeheartedly agree. Love that. But I want to go back just a little bit. When you were talking about when you made the choice to invest in this mentor to, at the time you thought, give you the answers to propel you forward. When in reality, which I think is a great sign of a great mentor, they got you to ask better questions about yourself and to begin to make different choices, or for maybe the first time ever making choices in general. It reminds me, ever forward, I run a mentorship program every year. And about 3 years ago, I had this guy, shout out Jeff if you're listening, who we both knew, I knew he could not afford at the time. But he was in a place to where there was such resonance with what we were doing in this experience that he's like, I can't not be a part of this. And he said yes. He made the choice. He said yes. And then all throughout, for the first probably like 4-6 months, it's a year-long program, he was doing everything, thinking differently, being more creative, taking on different jobs to make sure that this investment stayed alive. And in the end, like, I mean, he, in my opinion, was one of the ones that like flourished the most, because not only did he wind up, again, he wanted to like have his own creativity business, you know, videography, and he ultimately did that, but not on the path that he probably thought. Mm-hmm. And I think whether we're talking about making an investment with a mentor or a coach, or we're trying to get out of rock bottom, in whatever way pain is showing up in our lives, would you agree where I want to go with this is like it all has to start with a choice. We have to choose to not accept our circumstances right here. We have to choose to believe that there is a better way to feel, a better way to move. There is a way out of this. There is a different way. There's mm-hmm. not the way that I, have been told right now. Does it all come down to choice? And if so, we've definitely kind of touched on it, but how do we know we're making the right choice?
We never do. I think we have to be comfortable with that. And yes, I think it comes down to choice. And I think the choice is dictated by circumstance, right? So if you grew up in a town where the only successful person you knew was a drug dealer, then, and you don't know that there's other stuff, mm-hmm. then you might decide that that's your choice. I can be successful or I cannot be mm-hmm. successful. I was fortunate to grow up in an environment where I didn't have to look at that as my mm-hmm. examples. But I think that our opportunities, yours as a podcaster, mine as a podcaster, ours as business owners and mentors to people, we can start to put things in front of people that obviate more choices. And that's what I think the opportunity is for anybody who is in a service position. Offer more choices to people. So that, and not by saying like, hey, here's your path A, your path B. That's limiting.
Right. Yeah. It's there are options, but you're mm-hmm. still limiting the options.
Yes. There are an innumerable number of options and choices. And it's our job when we're servicing somebody to provide them with the information that we best know mm-hmm. can support their ability to see the choices. Mm-hmm. As soon as we start offering them the choices, we've limited their ability to grow. Mm-hmm. So that I think, we started off this conversation talking about pain. Mm-hmm. Pain limits choices, right? So
we think it limits choices.
Right.
We think.
Right. Injury can limit choices mm-hmm. in our minds. A professional coach can help somebody to understand the choices that you were looking at there are only a small number of the choices mm-hmm. that are available. Mm-hmm. And then ask the questions like, what can you do? Mm-hmm. And let them start to decide. I was talking about this yesterday with my mentor. My push this year is to get on more podcasts. Mm-hmm. That's my push this year. And I was kind of stuck. I'm like, I've applied to a lot of them. I'm not really sure what else to do besides ask friends. And he's like, well, who can you ask? I'm like, I don't know. And then we just sat there for an hour. He's like, who can you ask? Who can you ask? Who can you ask? And by the time we were done, I had a list of 9 people who I believe would be really strong references for me, who have connections to people with good podcasts, who would advise that I should go on them. Mm-hmm. So it's having someone who can help to obviate choice.
Asking for help is, I think, one of the best starts in anything and everything we've been talking about. Recognizing that I don't even want to say like need help, which might actually really be true, but saying we want help, I think, really helps us take a step forward with having a lot of our power and feeling empowered in the choices you're making, especially in pursuit of making your physical body, mental body, emotional self better. That ultimately goes back to my earlier point of really adherence, because then I think all along the way, if we feel like we're more in control, or we're just at least in control asking the questions and in pursuit of getting help, like we know that I'm on a path of kind of my own choice. And when I think back to experiences like that, that definitely drives adherence for me, because I feel like I know why I'm where I am. I kind of have a really clear or pretty clear understanding of how I got here, and I know who contributed to that. So therefore, if I'm curious or want to go somewhere else, or how do I get from here to even there, like I can just go back to those same resources.
Well, so I used to think that I didn't need any help. I used to think I can do anything I need to do on my own. And I'm a
Biggest
pretty,
lie we can ever tell ourselves, right?
right? Well, what it does, that the belief that we don't need help robs us of the ability to be grateful, right? Because you don't need help to ask me questions, but we needed help to get introduced. We need Dave over there hitting the switches. We need help with the studio, right? Like there's a lot of stuff that we do need help for. When we look at this stuff is happening, we can be really grateful. And if we just thought like, nah, I did this all on my own, then what is there to be excited about?
In what you do and how you do it, what do you kind of see being the biggest need for people right now? Because I know you have, you and the whole team, you guys have a great approach to really everything we've been talking about. What do you see really being the biggest needs? Is there a common thread in the physical self and the mental self? You know, how do you guys then approach that? What is your secret sauce?
Self-awareness. You know, in general, I think that people gaining a larger degree of self-awareness is the most pivotal tool to growth. Because, you know, I remember when my bank account was really, really bad. I didn't want to open it. I didn't want to look at it. Like, you know, oh, how much did I spend on the credit card?
I need to look at this, but I know what it's going to say.
Right. And I don't want to see it. But when you do see it, avoiding obsessing over it and simultaneously understanding, okay, I know how to change this. So, but I need to know what it is in order to change it. And a big thing for the fitness industry in particular is I think that there's a heavy dose of self-awareness that's needed. We have a population where less than 20% of people have gym memberships. Less than half of those people use them. We have a society of 67% of people who are overweight, 42% who are obese, 20% of children are obese, 9% of them are significantly obese, morbidly obese. There's more opportunity for fitness in the United States and the world than there has ever been before. And this problem continues to climb. How can those two things be aligned? Right? There was a study that URSA put out that in the year 2000, there were 30 million people in gyms, 32. In the year 2019, there were 65 million people in gyms. That's a lot more people in gyms, but we're not getting healthier.
Right.
So what's going on there? And then during COVID, you saw a lot of fitness is what everybody needs. And it was true, by the way. There needed to be more talk around get out, take care of yourself, get healthier. And then fitness businesses would pound their chest and say, like, we are the solution. And I would ask trainers and gym owners to really observe that thought for a second and recognize that fitness is the solution. It might not be your fitness. And so why today are those people not coming into our gyms? Why are people not seeking the trainers, the guidance, the help? Why are they opting to do something else? And I think that if we take a long, hard look at what the fitness industry has become over the years, it's a place where the person with the most Instagram followers has the most credibility. It's the place where the attitude is when they make it their priority, they'll come and find us, which isn't, it's our job to help them make it their priority. The education to become a fitness professional is a 3-hour CPR course and a test. If you want to be a cosmetologist, somebody who does somebody's hair, puts their makeup on, you have to go through 1,000 hours of supervised work before you can sit for the test. Fitness is 3.
Yeah, you can go take a weekend workshop.
You don't even have to.
If that.
Right?
That's what I remember. That's what it was to get your trainer certification back in my day.
It depends on which one you're getting, right? You can
True,
you can get ACE out of a textbook. You can get NASM off the internet. You know, you have it's a variety of different offerings. But now the consumer is left to figure out who's the person I want to work with. And they need to figure out, did this person do continued education? Do they have advanced knowledge? Do they have experience with somebody like me? Are they going to understand my problems? Are they going to meet me where I am? And it's too difficult for people to do that, so they just skip it. And I think that if the fitness industry looked at itself through a really clear prism and everyone identified, for whom am I the ideal fit? It would be so much easier for the consumer, and it would be more valuable for everybody. That's what I'm looking for.
You're in a really unique position where I feel a lot of people are this day and age, and I think a lot of my listeners are as well. And that's, you're someone that is very aware, working on, the mindset. You're someone that is honoring your body and in pursuit of maintenance, optimization, the physical self. You're an entrepreneur, you're a business owner, you're a leader, you're a partner, you're a father, right?
3 times.
You're a lot of things. And at the core of it, you are still a human being. You're a human being in this human experience, trying to, my words, not yours, take on the world, make the world a better place, and make the world and your world as optimized and better as possible. So I'm curious, what is your biggest pain point right now? And what would you say, is it similar to maybe one that someone is in a similar position?
Yeah, everyone's in the same position. It's rate of growth. Rate of growth is my biggest pain point, right? I oftentimes on my social media will talk to myself.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
And put it out.
Yeah.
And one of the things I talked about recently was if too many people believe that there is a mountain that has a top and that one day you'll get to it, when the reality is the top is a direction, like north.
Oh, wow.
You never get to north.
Yeah.
You just keep going in that direction. And, if we're pushing a rock up a hill because we eventually want to rest and put that rock on top of the hill and look out, what we need to remember is that there isn't a top of the hill. The only reason to push the rock is because we like pushing rocks. And so for me, I know what we have at Active Life. We help coaches go from struggling and having to work 2 or 3 jobs to being 6-figure coaches full time, online or in person. We help people reclaim physical freedom and active lives from anywhere in the world. And we help gym owners employ the kind of coaches who can offer those kinds of results for the clients. And in a lot of ways, I'm pushing against a very strong tide, right? Because our success would indicate a hole in the system. And it's the hardest thing for me to do is to get people of influence to agree that there's a hole and to be open-minded to finding a solution for it without believing that they're the solution themselves, right? And so for me, the biggest pain point is rate of growth. When are we going to be there? When are we going to be bigger? There's no reason.
When are we going to make it?
Right. When are we going to make it? The same guy who couldn't clear $30,000 7 years ago runs a business that does several millions of dollars a year now and is wondering when he's going to make it. And I'd be lying if I said to anybody that wasn't the truth for me day in and day out. So that's the thing I struggle with.
I think that's really what a lot of us struggle with in scale. When am I going to make it? When am I going to make it out of this bed? When am I going to make it to the next PR? When am I going to make it to that promotion? When am I going to make it to the next best relationship? When is someone going to see me, validate me? When am I going to actually think that I'm worth what everybody is saying? I think I agree so much with what you're saying. I think that's probably one of the most through lines in the human experience. But the only way around that, I think, is to just have really embody what you're talking about, and that, it's the destination is never there. And it's the falling in love, that the choice of falling in love, of pushing the rock, that is really the only way that's going to get you through it.
It's what you said before we started recording. We are exactly where we're supposed to be.
Yeah.
And that's one of those thoughts that you're like, damn. Yeah, that's true. I just think I'm supposed to be somewhere else.
Yeah.
But it goes back to that gratefulness, right? Like when I was doing this 7 years ago, I was alone, and now I have a team of 30 plus people, and the push now is for us to have the influence that we have expanded to the people who need it. Right? There are too many coaches out there still working for the $19 to $25 an hour who are like, I'm coaching right now, but I have another job and eventually I'm gonna have to stop. Like, I want all of those people to talk to us and see if we should help them or not. The people who are out there right now who are like, I'm too old for this, I got to work it around it. All of those people, that, like, the growth that I want is for that. Right? Like, I see people struggling all the time and I know what it feels like to struggle in that position. And I want to help people not have to. So that's the frustration. I want that faster.
Yeah, I'm with you for sure. But it's like, no, yes.
Right. Gas brake.
Yeah. To kind of get towards the end here, this has been such a great conversation. I'm so grateful for. Please give us a little taste, a little behind the scenes view of really what you all do, how you do it on like the business side, and helping other coaches. Because I think this is such a necessity in the fitness, in the coaching community, health, fitness, wellness. Honestly, what makes you guys different?
What makes us different is that we focus on things that do not scale, where I believe a lot of other companies or people are focusing on things that do.
Like what? What doesn't scale in the coaching business?
Personal attention. Right? So for us to grow to any kind of global scale, we would need to hire thousands of people. And I'm for that, right? I'm into that. We're not a technology company. We're not a programs company. So we don't release a program and then allow as many thousands of people to download it as they want and it costs us this much money. No, there is a personal cost in our company to every person who comes to work with us. And I like it that way. It makes us human. All of our services, all of our products grew out of a solution to our own problems, right? So I was working with, like I said earlier, the Olympians, the professional baseball players, the CrossFit Games athletes, the champions, all of those people. And what I learned from working with them led me to develop different techniques, to develop different methods, different conversation. And that led to thousands of people from around the world buying our templates, which we used to sell. And I no longer sell them because I don't feel ethical about the way that we're able to deliver on them. If that ever changes, I'll do it again. But thousands of people from around the world, either working with us on templates or one-to-one. That led to coaches asking, how do I do what you guys are doing for the member of my gym in Nebraska? You guys are in New York. So we started educating coaches on how to do what we do. And that started off as a weekend seminar, right? Then it turned into a 12-week course. And now it's 13 months long. And it takes a coach 15 to 20 hours a week of work to complete and be successful in. It's the bridge between fitness and healthcare. Right? We want people to be able to take a patient out of a physical therapy clinic after they finish their care and continue them on their path. We want a coach to be able to have someone walk in who's 150 pounds overweight and they would know the chairs in my office do not have arms on them because this is a person who would look at a chair with arms and wonder, will I fit, and just not sit.
Wow.
So we want to teach coaches and gym owners how to do all of that. When we started to be successful teaching coaches to make six-figure incomes really affecting people's lives, gym owners who employed these coaches were like, how do you guys do this? What's going on here? And so we started educating gym owners on how to employ these kinds of coaches and develop them. We developed the coach on behalf of the gym owner, and then we developed the gym owner at the same time. So the gym owner has a mentor, and their coaches have a group of mentors from our team. Both are following their own separate curriculum. So the gym owner never has to worry that we told them something and now they have to translate it to the coach in a game of telephone, then translate it back up with the questions. We handle both ends. Finally, we saw that gym owners were hitting the ceiling, $65,000 to $85,000 a month, running the gyms that they used to run, which were small group facilities, with the personal training that we were telling them to add and teaching them to add. And so we said, you guys need to get rid of your big group. It's what's holding you back. Your margins are low. It's high volume. It's scaring other people away. Run this other model, the model that we now run, which is personal training into autonomous training program design in a group setting, into independence. Run this. And it was really hard for them to adopt that reasonably so. They hadn't
Oh,
seen
it's a
it
big
done.
shift. Yeah.
Yeah. So we opened our own flagship in Long Beach. We spent a ton of money and opened up a space that will demonstrate what it looks like to deliver education, exercise, and mentorship in a prescriptive way.
Hearing what you all do and how you do it, even though I personally don't feel or say like I'm living, working in the fitness community and the health fitness space, kind of, like I used to, but I live it every day. And I know there's going to come a point in my life where, hopefully not anytime soon, but I'm probably going to need something like this, because I've been in a place where I did need it and didn't have it. And it makes me so hopeful and so grateful that there are people that continue to fight the good fight of recognizing the disconnect between traditional allopathic care and what maybe someone can do on their own or with a coach. There is a necessity for something in between that is not a one size fits all, that is not a cookie cutter program or facility or menu option like you're talking about, because we are humans continuously having this human experience. And when we especially fall into pain in a variety of ways, we need a variety of ways to work through that. And again, it makes me go back to when I really needed something like this and didn't. It makes you wonder, like, where would I be? What maybe would I have done more quickly, or would I have, started my career sooner? Would I have rehabilitated sooner? What does that translate to? Just again, the human potential here is really infinite when we have the right tools in our toolbox, but it all has to start with the right questions in our head first.
Yeah. People come to us when they feel a threat to their physical freedom, whether they are hurt or just don't know how to be physically active. They feel a threat to the rest of their life being the way that they pictured it. That's when they come to us. You probably would be in the same place, having taken a different path.
True, very true. And I believe that. I do.
We all need to learn things our own way.
That was a good reminder. Thank you.
You're welcome. You are where you're supposed to be.
Well, Sean, I would love to ask now my final question. I ask everybody, and I think you've really embodied it, and in ways shared it already. But to live a life ever forward is to do everything we've been talking about. Is to become curious about things that we're doing, that we're not doing. To ask the right questions, to keep the right things, and to disregard or let go of things that no longer serve us, so that we can take a step forward to live a life ever forward. When you hear those two words, what does that mean to you? How do you kind of translate that through what you do and how you do it?
It's funny when I started listening to your show.
Thank you, by the way.
You're welcome, of course. And when I knew I was going to be coming on, I started thinking about the answer to that question, and I wrote down a bunch of them. And then I decided that none of them were right, and I wanted to answer that question in the moment when you asked it.
All right.
And so for me, what ever forward means is that you're looking for the opportunity in anything. So what that means, when everything that set me on my path could have been the worst thing that happened to me. And in hindsight, all of those were the best things that happened to me. Type 2 fun, if you will. So when I think ever forward, I think looking for the opportunity in all situations.
And it comes back to a choice. We have to choose that first, right?
Yes.
Well, this has been great, man. Where can everybody connect with you? I'm going to have all of your information down on the show notes, video notes for everybody. But, where can they go to connect with you and learn more about what you do and how you do it?
At Dr. Sean Pastuch on Instagram.
Okay.
Everything is linked out of there. It's just easy. At Dr. Sean Pastuch, DrSeanPastuch. No one remembered that. Look in the show notes.
Just click the link, everybody. Sean, thank you so much, man.